Whether fighting hordes of dwarves, skating on tree branches, or gawking at the environments, I had a fantastic time with Jotun. Jotun is an interesting and fun Norse action platformer with a top-down perspective and some interesting art. It's one of the first things you'll note about Jotun. The fantastic hand-drawn art looks like something out of an anime, and the flowing animations lend to this fact. The varied color scheme helps shake up the different stages of Yggdrasil, the world tree you will be traversing. The beauty is best exemplified by the sweeping camera that will highlight the world that you're exploring. The narration that accompanies this is spoken in some sort of foreign language that I'm not going to try and guess, and is joined with slow string instrument music that almost reminds me of tracks from the Witcher series. Stuff like this is something I'm always a big fan of because I feel like it's a good stray away from chiptunes and can add emotional moments in a way that other styles really cannot. All of these components combine together to create a near perfect atmosphere throughout your journey. The Norse influences of Jotun are far from an afterthought. Everything from the environments to the dulcet tones of the voice actors help remind you what world you're in. And a Norse storyline is an amazing thing to find. You see your modern storylines, your fantasy story, your sci-fi story, and occasionally your Greek mythology story. But a Norse storyline is not often seen and, in my opinion, is one of the best mythology variants around. It provides some of the most opportunities for interesting boss battles that other ones really don't. And as you're preparing for your fight against the fearsome Jotun, or giants, you will need to learn the mechanics of this branch of Yggdrasil. Each level plays a bit differently and no levels feel quite the same. I am glad the Jotun team went to the Mega Man X school of teaching the player, because they do a fantastic job of explaining how their game works to you. Before each boss fight, you will go through a few smaller stages, and each stage will contain some, but not all of the mechanics you need, and then the Jotun battles will be the culmination of these as you need to mesh both things that you have learned from the previous stages. The Jotun battles are a perfect example on how to do difficulty and game design right. I had enough challenge to need a few times before beating the game, but I wasn't hard to the point that I would give up in frustration. Also, the stage variants for the bosses are different, and each boss has different abilities that don't feel like gimmicks, but feel worked into the world and the lore that it is following. But the difficulty isn't all due to the game design, and I often felt that my deaths were not my fault. The combat can be a bit clunky, and the most prominent time this is seen is the dodging. And while you could argue that the choppiness of the dodging makes sense, since your little Viking man is short and stocky, but I would say because it's not game-changing, it's really frustrating, and it doesn't lend to any sort of lore, and I feel like it's always gameplay over story and world building, and you shouldn't have to substitute someone's fun for someone's immersion. Overall though, Jotun is a monument to interesting shakeups from the norm, with beautiful atmospheric art and music, superb world building, and fun gameplay, only deterred by a combat system that could be improved slightly. With that being said, Jotun earns itself an 8.5 out of 10 with a label of interesting. I highly recommend checking this piece out because it's really worth a try. If you liked this review and want to hear more, consider supporting me on Patreon, where for just $1 or more per month you will help reviews like this keep happening. That is patreon.com/ChocolatierGames, and the link is in the description. Thank you for watching, and bye bye.